The obedience shift. Why modern societies replace faith with power. The gods didn't die. They were simply replaced. What Jung identified as the God-shaped hole in the modern psyche wasn't abandoned, it was colonized. When transcendent authority collapses, horizontal authority expands to fill the vacuum. We are witnessing a mass psychological transference. The obedience once reserved for the divine has been rerouted toward the institutional. The confession booth has become the HR department. The pilgrimage has become the permit. And the modern citizen, stripped of cosmic meaning, clings to procedural compliance as the last remaining structure of moral certainty. This is not politics. This is the architecture of the shadow, the mechanism by which populations surrender internal authority and project it outward onto systems they simultaneously fear and worship. And history suggests this pattern does not end peacefully. For most of human existence, the individual was embedded within a cosmological order. There was God, or gods, or fate, or karma, something vast and unchallengeable that granted meaning to suffering and structure to chaos. The king ruled by divine right. The priest interpreted the will of heaven. Obedience was not a political choice, it was a metaphysical necessity. Then came the Enlightenment. And with it, the slow death of the sacred. Nietzsche declared God dead in 1882, but he wasn't celebrating, he was issuing a warning. He understood that the removal of transcendent authority would not liberate humanity, it would destabilize it, because the need for structure, for order, for something beyond the self to organize chaos, does not disappear simply because we stop believing in Scripture. The psychological infrastructure remains. The God-shaped hole demands to be filled. And so, in the 20th century, we watched the hole filled with ideologies. Communism became a secular religion, complete with saints, heresies, and apocalyptic promises. Fascism offered a return to mythic unity, blood, and soil. Liberal democracy positioned itself as the end of history, the final rational order. Each system promised salvation not in the afterlife, but in the perfected state. But ideologies require belief. And belief, in a disenchanted world, is expensive. By the early 21st century, even ideology had begun to fracture. The grand narratives lost their binding power. The Soviet Union collapsed. The end of history thesis crumbled in the Middle East. The promise of technocratic liberalism curdled into surveillance, debt, and culture war. And the population, no longer able to believe in heaven or utopia, began to believe in nothing except the necessity of compliance. This is the obedience shift. It is the moment when a society stops obeying because it believes and starts obeying because it must. When the structure of authority becomes its own justification. When the logic of control replaces the logic of meaning. Let's examine the mechanism. The human psyche is not designed to operate in a moral vacuum. We are meaning-making creatures. We require narrative, hierarchy, and purpose. When those structures are provided by religion or tradition, the individual experiences agency within a greater order. You obey God, but you also have a relationship with God. You can pray, you can rebel, you can seek redemption. The transcendent authority is vast, but it is also personal. When that authority is replaced by the state, something fundamental changes. The state is not transcendent, it is bureaucratic. It does not offer salvation, it offers efficiency. It does not provide meaning, it provides regulation. And yet, the psychological need for authority does not diminish. The citizen, stripped of metaphysical grounding, begins to relate to the state the way a medieval peasant related to the church. Not out of love, but out of existential dependency. This is what Jung called the inflation of the ego into the collective. The individual, unable to locate meaning internally, projects all moral authority outward. The result is not freedom, it is a new form of bondage. The citizen becomes the subject. The subject becomes the statistic. And the statistic becomes the unit of control. Research in social psychology suggests that populations under existential threat, whether economic, biological, or cultural, are significantly more willing to surrender autonomy in exchange for perceived safety. This is not cowardice. It is a survival mechanism. But it is also a trap. Because once the mechanism of control is normalized, it does not easily reverse. Consider the language shift. Obedience is no longer framed as submission, it is framed as solidarity. Compliance is rebranded as care. Dissent is pathologized as selfishness or danger. The individual who questions authority is not a rebel. They are a threat to public health, public safety, public order. The moral frame inverts. The act of obedience becomes virtuous in itself, independent of the content of the command. This is the psychology of the good German, the good Soviet, the good citizen of any regime that replaces divine authority with procedural authority. The individual does not believe in the system, but they believe in the necessity of not questioning it. And here is the darker mechanism. The system knows this. Modern governance does not require belief. It requires participation. The architecture of control in the 21st century is not built on propaganda alone. It is built on procedural entanglement. You do not need to love the system. You simply need to use the app, scan the code, file the form, accept the terms. Every transaction is a micro-compliance. Every compliance is a data point, and every data point reinforces the structure. This is soft totalitarianism. It does not arrive in boots, it arrives in updates and policies, and for your own good mandates. And the population, exhausted by choice and drowning in information, begins to experience relief in the narrowing of options. Erich Fromm identified this as the escape from freedom. The modern individual, overwhelmed by the responsibility of self-determination, unconsciously seeks refuge in submission, not because they are weak, but because autonomy without meaning is unbearable. This is not new. The pattern has occurred before. We are simply watching it accelerate. Consider the Roman Empire in its late phase. The Pax Romana had delivered centuries of stability, but by the 3rd century, the empire was hollow. The old gods had lost their power. The civic religion was a formality. The population no longer believed in Rome's divine mandate, they simply believed in its inevitability. And so, when the empire began to fracture, the response was not revival, it was control. The dominate replaced the principate. The emperor became a god-king. The bureaucracy expanded. Loyalty oaths multiplied. The population was sorted, taxed, monitored, and bound to the land. The empire did not collapse because it was weak. It collapsed because it tried to manage decline through total control, and the cost of that control exceeded the system's capacity to sustain it. Or consider the Soviet Union. The revolution promised liberation, but within decades it had constructed the most intricate apparatus of obedience in human history. The Gulag, the informant, the 5-year plan, all mechanisms designed to replace internal conscience with external compliance. And the population obeyed, not because they believed in communism, but because the alternative to obedience was annihilation. The system did not fall because people stopped obeying. It fell because obedience alone cannot generate meaning, and a society that runs on compliance eventually runs out of fuel. We are now in the early stages of a similar pattern. Across the liberal democracies, trust in institutions is collapsing. Surveys consistently showed declining faith in government, media, academia, and corporate leadership. And yet, simultaneously, the scope of institutional control is expanding. More regulations, more surveillance, more mandates. The population obeys more, but believes less. This is the psychological paradox of late-stage governance. The less legitimate the system feels, the more control it must exert to maintain order. And the more control it exerts, the less legitimate it becomes. The citizen is caught in the middle. They do not trust the system, but they cannot imagine life outside it. They comply, not out of conviction, but out of inertia. And that inertia is mistaken, by the system, for consent. But inertia is not stability. It is the pause before the collapse. To understand the architecture of this shift, one must return to the source texts. Carl Jung's Man and His Symbols remains the essential guide to this specific form of collective behavior. Jung argued that the unconscious mind operates through archetypes, universal patterns that shape how we perceive authority, danger, and identity. One of the most powerful archetypes is the shadow. The shadow is the part of the psyche that we deny, repress, or project onto others. It contains everything we refuse to acknowledge about ourselves, our violence, our irrationality, our need for domination. In a healthy psyche, the shadow is integrated. The individual acknowledges their darker impulses and learns to channel them constructively. But in a society that has lost its symbolic language, the shadow cannot be integrated, can only be projected. And so, the modern citizen projects their shadow onto the outsider, the unvaccinated, the populist, the deplorable, the conspiracy theorist, the other political tribe. The scapegoat becomes the repository for everything the collective refuses to confront about itself, and the act of scapegoating becomes a ritual of purification, not of the society, but of the individual's conscience. This is how obedience becomes moral. You are not complying because you are weak. You are complying because you are good, and those who refuse to comply are evil. The psychological relief is immense. You no longer need to interrogate your own motivations. You simply need to follow the rules and condemn those who don't. But projection is not resolution. The shadow does not disappear when you project, it grows. And the more a society relies on scapegoating to maintain cohesion, the more unstable it becomes. Jung warned that the greatest danger to civilization was not external conquest, but internal fragmentation. When a collective loses its capacity for self-reflection, it becomes possessed by its own unconscious. The result is mass psychosis, a state in which the population can no longer distinguish between reality and projection, between policy and paranoia. We are not there yet, but the signs are visible. So what is the alternative? History suggests there are only a few paths forward. The first is collapse. The system becomes so rigid, so disconnected from reality, that it simply breaks. The population stops obeying, not because they rebel, but because the cost of compliance exceeds the benefit. The Soviet Union did not fall to revolution, it fell to exhaustion. The second is reformation. A new narrative emerges that re-enchants the world, that restores meaning without requiring totalitarian control. The Renaissance did this. The Protestant Reformation did this. The Enlightenment did this. But Reformation requires intellectual courage and cultural creativity, and both are in short supply. The third is technocratic consolidation. The system does not collapse and does not reform, it simply becomes more efficient. Artificial intelligence optimizes compliance. Digital identity replaces cash. Social credit replaces trust. The population does not rebel because rebellion becomes impossible to coordinate. This is the nightmare scenario, and it is also the most likely. The fourth is awakening. The population remembers that authority is not something granted by institutions, it is something generated internally. That obedience to external power is a choice, not a destiny. That the God-shaped hole can be filled with something other than the state. But awakening is rare. It requires suffering, disillusionment, and the willingness to sit with uncertainty. Most people would rather obey than awaken. It is easier, and that is the final truth of the obedience shift. It is not imposed by tyrants. It is chosen by populations who have forgotten what freedom costs. The modern citizen does not kneel before power because they are forced. They kneel because they have been taught that kneeling is kindness, that submission is safety, that compliance is community. And so the cathedral empties. The gods depart. And the only altar left standing is the one erected by those who claim to govern for your own good. Empires do not die from murder. They die from suicide. The mind of the nation fractures long before the borders do, and the fracture always begins the same way, when the population stops believing in meaning and starts believing in management. We are living through that fracture now. Tell us from which city you are observing this pattern. See you in the next analysis. Disclaimer. This content is for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace consultation with a professional. Always consult a qualified professional for questions related to finance, business, or investments.